Out at the Masri Arcade, there's two things I love in particular. One is showing off my incredible Call of Duty skills on my short section, and the second is having a ton of Xbox controller reviews because, as you guessed, we got another one here with a little bit of a different style of controller than I've reviewed. And the reason I even picked this up was my son and I were actually at a repair place getting his iPad fixed, and they had a ton of Xbox controllers on sale. But the special thing about this one that you're about to learn is that this one glows in the dark, and it's another product from PDP, but for the $10 that we picked it up for, there's a lot of things about it to like, but also a lot of things that it is lacking. So let's take a look. So to start, this is a pretty standard Xbox Series controller. I believe these Afterglow controllers were released in the 2022 period. So you were kind of getting a lot of cheaper style controllers being released that didn't have all the bells and whistles of pro level controllers like we talk about on the channel here. So this controller, out of the box, you get a standard micro USB, not a USB-C. So I guess it's pretty crazy to think that 2 years does date this controller a bit because USB-C wasn't the standard. But out of the box, nothing really special. It does alert you to the PDP app with a little handout here, as well as a pamphlet on how to operate the different colors or changing the colors on the controller itself. Now, one thing I did try, because I spoke about the PDP app with the PDP rematch when I originally reviewed that controller, and I had a lot of issues with it crashing or just not functioning correctly. And I did try it this time on my Xbox during my playtesting, and it worked substantially better than it previously did. It recognized this controller, updated, everything worked like it should have. So that was a good thing. Now, getting into the controller itself, one of the biggest deficits to this, and one of the biggest deficits from this era, I guess, of controllers, is this doesn't have back paddles, which with all the alternative controllers, with the controllers I commonly game with, to me that was a big enough deal. That was a big deal that I'm so used to it. I'm so accustomed to having the back buttons that I can press while I'm playing games that not having this did feel like I was losing quite a bit. Because other than my Elite controller, I haven't gone back to the Xbox stock controllers that came with either my console or my son's console. This was a little bit of something that threw me off a bit. Now, another thing is when you're holding this controller, it feels really light, and it feels even lighter than a lot of the other wired controllers that I've tested. Now, I know that's pretty standard with these, especially because these aren't wireless, so you don't have the batteries to add that extra weighting to it, but it just felt like even lighter than the standard alternative controllers or the third-party controllers that my son and I have play tested. Now, getting into the actual main feature of the controller, or the main exciting point of the controller, is this thing glows, right? So as you can tell on my arcade here, we got LED everything, right? So it's no secret that when we saw this was 10 bucks, we were like, wow, it looks like the lights in the arcade, let's test it out. So basically you hold your mic mute button and you hold your left joystick, and you can change all the different color profiles on this through a full spectrum of colors, and I thought this worked pretty well. And as a gimmick, or as a cool thing, if you're gaming in the dark and want to just have that cool gaming room experience, this does accent it. It works as advertised. It looks cool. It's relatively bright considering, and it looks nice. And I like the fact that it's like almost a gradient scale of changing colors when you hold down that mic button and move the joystick. Now, as far as the actual controller goes, the joysticks work really well. They perform well, and this is one of the main things you'll always hear me talk about whenever I look at third-party controllers, because I have had so many bad experiences with third-party controllers. But this one, the joysticks work really well, the buttons feel relatively good. You also have volume controls integrated into your D-pad if that's the sort of thing that you're using with a headset with a headphone jack. Now, one thing that I did think was kind of weird about this controller, because again, I've purchased PDP controllers and I've liked them, the joysticks, or sorry, the triggers almost feel like they go down a bit too deep. They feel like they're they indent just a bit too much, and it feels like it takes you just a fraction of a second longer to get your gun in Call of Duty, for example, to shoot, which I'm not going to say was a 100% deal breaker. Maybe I'm a bit spoiled with having my Elite controller that has the hair trigger options and my son's Power A controller that also has that. But this was definitely not as tight feeling as a standard Xbox controller or even the standard PDP controller or the PDP rematch that my son and I have used in the past. Now, these are kind of, again, there's a couple up and down points to this. I'm not even sure if you can purchase this controller currently. If you can, it's probably like a overstock, or you're gonna find somewhere on eBay selling it for cheap, or someone selling it used for cheap. And if you're purchasing this for cheap, it's a pretty good controller. But if you're gonna spend any more than 10, 20 bucks on this, I would 100% look at the PDP rematch or the Power A Advantage wired controllers. I'd say you get better value for those that at that above $20 price point than this controller. Now, let's just send this over to James and see what he has to say. What do you think of your controller?
It's good.
What do you like about it?
I don't know. That it's colored like that. It's colored.
Yeah, do you like how it feels when you're playing with it?
Yeah.
Oh, you like that you can change all the different colors?
Yes, I do.
How do you like this versus your other Xbox controllers?
That it shoots faster.
You think it shoots faster?
Yes.
Faster than even your Pro Power A controller?
Yes.
Really? So overall, not a bad controller. This was kind of more of a curiosity for the $10 that we spent. But again, if you can find one of these in this current market for that $10, $20 max price range, I'd say this is a good alternative controller, but it's not great. It lacks some of the things that made the PDP rematch a good, cheaper option to the Xbox controllers, and it definitely lacks a lot of the features that like a Power A Advantage would have. But again, this was kind of more of a curiosity find that my son and I got, and for that price point, it's not so bad.